The Americas Before Columbus by Dewey Farnsworth. They were of the house of Israel. The architecture, however, of the ruins of Kop and Palenque, Uxmal, and their time-honored associates has furnished a Rosetta Stone to aid the new translation of the hieroglyphical history of now ancient America. And if our theory is true, not only have the Israelites walked the land where the sun bestows his last smile, but another nation, in which was retained the primitive language of the Diluvian world, previously trod the soil as Aborigines. Ancient America, Jones, page 3. Among these Indians was an old fellow whose face hauntingly reminds me of an ancient picture of a Hebrew patriarch that I've seen in some forgotten place. City of the Sacred Well, Willard, page 179. A celebrated French traveler, M. de la Bordeaux, Caribbeans, Paris 1785, says, "Many of the Caribs told me that their early ancestors were a great and powerful people, whom I cannot help identifying with the Jews. Their laws relating to marriage were the same, and they were forbidden to eat the flesh of animals like the peccary or South American swine. The whole interior of the building from floor to peak is covered with worn and faded bas-reliefs, and the center of the rear wall is the perfect figure of a man, bearded with decidedly Hebraic features." The City of the Sacred Well, T.A. Willard, page 82 through 83. Kingsborough says, "I cannot fail to remark that one of the arguments which persuades me to believe that this nation descends from the Hebrews is to see the knowledge they have of the book of Genesis. It is impossible on reading what Mexican mythology records of the war in heaven and the fall of Zonte Moque and other rebellious spirits not to recognize scriptural analogies." Kingsborough. There are striking similarities between pre-Incan, the Incan, the Aztec, and the Mayan religions and the Hebrew faith, while throughout Peru there are places, names, as well as words in the Quechua language that are almost identical with the Old Hebrew. Many other religious customs and ceremonies exist of minor character, yet strikingly in analogy with the race of Abraham. But enough has been brought forward in this volume to propose these, as we believe, unanswerable questions. If they are not of the lost tribes of Israel, who are they? What nation of ancient history can claim and identify those customs and observances as their own, if not the Hebrew? Ancient America, Jones, page 21. The first and most striking fact among the North American Indians that refers us to the Jews is that they're worshiping in all parts the Great Spirit or Jehovah, as the Hebrews were ordered to do by divine precept, instead of a polarity of gods as ancient pagans and heathens did, and their idols of their own formation. The North American Indians are nowhere idolators. They appeal at once to the Great Spirit and know of no mediator, either personal or symbolic. Among the list of their customs, we meet a number which had their origin in the Jewish ceremonial code, and which are so very peculiar in their forms that it would seem quite improbable and almost impossible that two different people should ever hit upon them alike, without some knowledge of each other. North American Indians, Catlin, London, 1841. Then, in regard to the physique of the race, they possess the essential characteristics of the ancient Hebrew in regard to their physiognomy: the broad and elevated forehead, the alkaline nose, the high cheekbone, brilliant red countenance, and teeth pure as ivory, black hair, the dark and heavy eyebrows, The Sunken but Brilliant Eye, Ancient America, Jones, page 22. Londa says in his book that some old men of Yucatan related to him the story, handed down for many generations, that the first settlers had come from the east by water. These voyagers were ones whom God had freed, opening for them 12 roads to the sea. If there is any truth in this tradition, these progenitors may have been one of the lost tribes of Israel. An interesting sidelight on this hypothesis is the distinctly Semitic cast of countenance of some of the ancient sculptures and murals found at Chichen Itza and in other old Maya cities. The dignity of face and serene poise of these carved or painted likenesses are strikingly Hebraic. The City of the Sacred Well, T.A. Willard, page 33, 34, 35. Like the Jews, the Indians offer their first fruits. They keep their new moons and the Feast of Expiation at the end of September. On the beginning of October, they divide the year into 4 seasons, corresponding with the Jewish festivals. According to Charlo and Long, the brother of a deceased husband receives his widow into his house as a guest and after a suitable time considers her as a legitimate consort. In some parts of North America, circumcision is practiced, and of this Acosta, Lopez de Gomara make mention. But that which most tends to fortify the opinion as to the Hebrew origin of the American tribes is a species of ark, seemingly like that of the Old Testament. This the Indians take with them to war. It is never permitted to touch the ground, but rests upon stones or pieces of wood, it being deemed sacrilegious and unlawful to open it or look upon it. The American priests scrupulously guard their sanctuary, and the high priest carries on his breast a white shell adorned with precious stones, which recalls the Urim of the Jewish high priest, of whom we are also reminded by a band of white plumes on his forehead.